Part 2 continues when Keita can't stop thinking about what happened back at school and Miharu's big heart that he had fondled. Even in his sleep, he keeps thinking about it. He needed to clear the air the next day at school. When school finishes, it's raining, and so Keita decides to go to the school library to study and finds that Miharu is there as well. She turns out to be the librarian. The two are the only people in the library coincidentally, and this makes for a really awkward situation. While Keita can't stop but think that he needs to apologize, Miharu is terrified. Already in school, several rumors about Keita being a sex demon who preys on cute girls have been spreading like wildfire, and Miharu can't stop but think that she will be molested again. Miharu becomes too intimidated by her proximity to Keita to go to the bathroom, believing that he will grope her if she takes her eyes off him. Keita notices that she had dropped her ID and chases after her as she tries to get to a washroom. Ako and Riko are now very suspicious of Keita and decide to head to his school to give him the umbrella and also check if he is in fact cheating on them. Just as Keita catches up to Miharu and once again lands on her in a very awkward way, Ako and Riko arrive at school. Immediately after noticing his sisters, Keita takes Miharu aside so that they don't see him with another girl. They hide in a closet until Ako and Riko leave, but when they try to get out, they get jammed inside the closet itself. Now, this was a massive issue as Miharu had been holding her pee for the last hour or so. Somehow, they managed to escape the locker, but once again, right before entering the toilet, Keita drags her away because his sisters were nearby. This is all going to lead to something really bad. I can sense it. The two end up getting inside a sports locker room but get locked up since it's after school. Now, Keita and Miharu had no choice but to either stay in the locker room or escape through the high window. Keita carries Miharu on his back and tries to push her through, but all the movement and the pressure building up for over 2 hours now ends up showing. Miharu pees all over Keita's back. Yes, that just happened. Now, any normal human would have been freaked out by all this, but Keita is surprisingly calm and even cleans up the pee that has remained on the floor behind them. They eventually manage to escape from the room, and Keita promises to keep the indecent secret. However, Keita accidentally sees her without her undergarments, as she had removed it earlier, and this time he gets the beating of a lifetime. The look on his face, however, definitely says that it was worth it. One day, their father wins a computer in his office's bingo contest and brings it back home. However, Ako and Riko are unable to view adult content on the laptop because of some software that their father had added. They try every single method and every single keyword, but the laptop just won't show them their desired searches. So, the two sisters decide to head to Akihabara to buy some erotic games. To their dismay, however, Keita joins them on the trip. Ako distracts Keita by taking him to a cosplay shop while Riko investigates the adult section of a game shop. While Ako and Keita are in a cosplay shop deciding the outfit for Keita to wear, they start making a fuss, and, taking the opportunity of the changing stall, Ako tries to seduce Keita once again. But just then, they are stopped by none other than Ako's teacher, Yuzuki Kiryu. Yuzuki turns out to be a closet otaku who is really serious about cosplay, but doesn't want others to know about it. As soon as the student and teacher lock eyes, Yuzuki runs away in shame. Yuzuki quickly changes back to her usual dress and heads to the game shop instead, but much to her dismay, while browsing through some really spicy erotic games, she encounters Riko. She quickly makes up an excuse to be there and runs away with an extremely sus Boku no Pico game. Riko, who apparently also wanted the sus game, is not one to give up, and soon the teacher is surrounded by Keita, Riko, and Ako, and confronted about her being there. She remembers Keita and his sisters being in a really weird relationship and quickly turns the topic to them and starts lecturing them instead. Even if Yuzuki was in an adult store in front of her underage students, she did in fact have some sense in her and tells them that their so-called love had no future. The girls, however, don't care what Yuzuki had to say. They loved Keita, and apparently Keita was fine with it. They truly belonged to each other. Yuzuki drags Keita off to talk to him, inadvertently taking him to a cosplay-themed love hotel. Despite the obvious and erotic distractions, Yuzuki manages to tell Kita that he was in the wrong and had to seriously consider his feelings towards his sisters. Obviously, for some reason, the two end up in a really awkward position after Kita falls on her while leaving, but Ako and Riko find them on time to stop the situation from developing further. One of Kita's friends, Toda, coaxes him into going to the pool with him and Mikazuki and inviting Ako and Riko by handing him an erotic magazine. Kita is easily convinced and calls his sisters to come over with his trunk and their swimsuits. As they head to the pool, Yuzuki, who had been fantasizing about her favorite anime in the window of a local store, notices them. Suspicious of what they might be up to, Yuzuki decides to tail them. However, when she reaches the pool, she realizes that getting into the pool is quite expensive. It's funny how children enter the pool with little to no trouble financially, but a grown woman ends up having financial difficulties despite having a job. Wonder what she is spending her money on. After much dilemma and consideration, Yuzuki enters the pool and spies on the group from afar as they pervertedly check on each other's chests for some reason. Toda is so excited by all this that he faints a couple of times, unable to control himself. While trying to hide from them in the bathroom, she is found by Ako and Riko, and they mistake her for a peeping Tom. The two girls, who are super perverted themselves, decide to teach the pervert in the bathroom a lesson. Talk about hypocrisy. They soak her with ice water to teach her a lesson. With her clothes soaked, Yuzuki borrows Kita's gym outfit as she cannot afford to buy swimsuits in the pool store. She is confronted by the student group, but makes up an excuse for her being there and heads back home in Kita's outfit. Later that night, Yuzuki becomes entranced by the manly smell of Kita's outfit. She cannot seem to control herself from wearing the dress again and gets excited the more she smells it. In the end, Yuzuki also turns out to be as messed up as the people around her and ends up pleasuring herself while wearing it and fantasizing about Kita. Oddly so, that night Kita also has a nightmare about his teacher doing stuff with him. The anime only gets weirder as we go. The summer festival arrives, and it is the only day Kita is free from his prep school work. The festival is not only an occasion for celebration, but also a chance for Ako and Riko to once again compete to completely seduce Keita. Immediately, Riko is up to the task and gives Keita a much-needed massage to convince him to go to the festival with her, while Ako feeds her brother with tons of good stuff to convince him otherwise. Ako and Riko compete for the opportunity to spend the festival night with him. At one point, it's almost as if the two girls would cut the poor boy in half just to have their way with him. At the end, though, all three siblings go to the festival together. Despite the setbacks, the festival turns out to be quite successful for both the girls, as the paraders that pass by enable both of them to have some alone time with Keita while the other gets dragged away. Yuzuki, the very troubled teacher, is also in the festival patrolling the fair and realizes that Riko and Keita are heading to the forest area. She believes they will be doing naughty if she cannot stop them and rushes behind them, but she loses them quickly in the crowd. However, once again, because of the paraders, Keita gets separated from Riko on their way to the forest. This time, he ends up with a chick that Ako apparently brought with her to the festival. The chick ends up going into the forest, and Keita rushes behind it and finds Miharu, the librarian girl from the last episode, peeing on the forest floor. Miharu really has a lot of issues with her bladder, doesn't she? Keita once again ends up seeing her urinating. Thankfully, this time he wasn't the one being peed on. However, he does in fact, once again, get the beating of a lifetime. When Keita returns to his sisters, they barely recognize him due to the beating he received from Miharu. Time has passed, and it's almost winter now. By the end of the school term, the high school entrances will arrive and Keita needs to work hard so that he can get into the same high school as his sisters. By the end of the school year, Ako and Riko also plan to make Keita completely theirs. But there can only be one winner, and they must do all they can to prevent the other from taking Keita away. Keita is super pumped to study for the entirety of the winter, but is reluctant to take help from either of his sisters as they would just end up seducing him instead of teaching them. Keita sits himself down in the living room on a Japanese table and begins his rigorous reading. But, as you guessed it, his sisters have no intention of letting him read peacefully. When Ako goes to cook some food for Keita, Riko takes the opportunity to join Keita alone in their living room. From under the table, the two siblings, step-siblings, start kicking each other, fooling around when suddenly things get steamy. Riko and Kita get involved in what they call foot play under the table. However, before things get demonetized, Ako shows up and saves the day. Kita is taking reading way too seriously, and that's a good thing, because he would get into a really good school if he studies well. Ako and Riko ultimately want the same thing, so they decide to help however they can. Ako searches on how to make a lucky charm for their brother, realizing that perhaps that is the best they can do for him. The two sisters once again end up in a really sus website, which tells them that the lucky charm only works well when it is made from the hair of the lover. And not just any hair, hair from down below. This is obviously the most ridiculous thing, but hey, who's going to argue? This whole anime is ridiculous to begin with. After much deliberation, the sisters pluck their own hair to make the charm. Wow, the struggles and sacrifices of true love. The weird sisters hand the charm to Keita, convincing him not to look inside. Keita, ignorant and stupid as he is, takes it to school with him for good luck. Yep, that just happened as well. A few days later, when the exams are really close, Keita falls ill. This is a major issue because if he doesn't get well in time for appearing in the exam, he might never get into the same school as Ako and Riko. So the two sisters get out of school to nurse him back to health. However, Ako and Riko aren't really the type that can stop their feelings from taking over their actions. Poor Kita's health only worsens as the sisters fight over each other to earn his affections rather than nursing him. Realizing their mistake, they try to take care of their brother once more, this time doing the one thing they do best: seduction. The two girls, for some wild reason, start licking the sweat off Keita's body from each and every corner of his body. I have no idea, so if there are any doctors here, please let me know how the hell did this treatment work. Just in a day's time, Keita is now fully fit and back on his feet. Instead, the cold passes on to his two sisters. Finally, Keita prepares for his exams and the day arrives. He bid farewell to his sisters, thanking them for all their help. Yuzuki, who proctors the exam, is surprised to find Keita present. While Keita takes his exams, Ako and Riko remember how Keita supported them when they were taking their exams. It wasn't in a sensual way at all, but the girls find it to be extremely attractive. Keito manages to finish his exam and returns back home to see that both of his stepsisters were fast asleep. He doesn't wake them, but thanks them for their help once more. Keita eagerly awaits the results of his exams, with Ako and Riko trying to wish him good luck, though they encounter several unlucky omens along the way to school. When they get to the notice boards, Keita's number isn't listed, and the trio becomes depressed. However, Yuzuki shows up after they leave to put up a few more numbers on the board, including Keita's. Not sure if that was the actual way to post a result, but either way, Keita did pass the exam, even though he doesn't know it yet. The trio is still depressed when they get back home, but when Keita notices the pre-celebratory preparations that Ako and Riko had prepared, he cheers up and decides it's best not to waste their efforts. For the first time throughout this anime, there is nothing off the top, as the trio celebrates despite believing that Keita had failed the exam. Later that evening, Keita is visited by Miharu, whose dog had picked up Keita's mail containing his results from his mailbox. After reading them, Keita learns that he had in fact passed the exams and hugs Miharu in his excitement. Despite the good news, the girls can't have other women around their brother and scare off Miharu, after which Keita tells them the good news. After Keita's graduation, Ako and Riko arrive to find they were too late to get the second, much less any of the buttons off of Keita's blazer. The second button on the male uniform is over the heart and is supposed to be given to the girl he loves to confess his feelings to. It's a kind of tradition in Japanese high school culture, I guess. They decide, against Keita's will, to hold a draw for consolation prizes from Keita, with Ako, Riko, Mikazuki, and even Miharu as participants. Miharu is already a contestant for some reason after beating Keita so many times already. She is as confused as we are because she didn't want to enter the contest, but since she was here already, she decides to do it anyway. The girls all write down their wishes, which are then randomly drawn. Whosever name is drawn will get the corresponding wish. Ako's plan backfires, and she ends up getting Kita's shirt collar, while Mikazuki wins the opportunity for Kita to flip her skirt, though he is unaware that she isn't wearing any underwear. Riko wins a chance to kiss Kita in front of everyone, but is too embarrassed to do so, which makes no sense because Riko had done so much worse when it comes to Kita. Finally, Miharu gets the final grand prize, to spend 5 minutes alone with Keita in the equipment room and be allowed to do anything. Keita simply uses the time to thank Miharu, but after a slip-up, which almost always seems to happen in the anime, they end up in a compromising position, leading Ako and Riko to assume the worst. Later that night, while Keita sleeps, Ako and Riko make a move on him once more. They start seducing the man in his sleep, which I am pretty sure is highly illegal. This, however, just gives Keita weird dreams. Still dreaming, as Keita unconsciously grabs his jacket in the real world, the button he had been saving for the sisters falls out. Realizing that they still had the chance to go the normal way and didn't have to force him into getting into a relationship with them, the sisters decide to leave him alone for the night. As the new semester starts, Keita walks to high school hand in hand with Ako and Riko, and this anime finally ends. Wow, that was a wild ride. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on the notification, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thanks for watching!